So going forward, I will make sure I keep these in. So apologize on the last video or two. I had quite an echo and forgot to put my headphones in. So I'll try to keep these up. I'm not at my home. I'm at a property I own, but I'm not where I'm living. And so all my stuff is basically not here. So I apologize for that. But I'm going to try to redo the video I ranted on last night that didn't post. It is in regards to the situation where the F-35s had launched across the Persian Gulf and they were picked up by Russian radar, and news about the Russian ambassador in the United States yesterday. And then today seems to be the day. The 7th has been the big day, right? Because it's a 1-year anniversary of what's going on in Gaza. And expected, like, celebratory attacks from Hezbollah or Hamas or whoever else out of Iraq, whatever organizations are launching attacks out of Iraq, which has just kind of picked up the last 3 or 4 days, that Israel is now dealing with some ragtag groups over there, ragtag groups who have some pretty good weaponry, I might add. And then I'll keep my rant to a minimum because people on YouTube have me irritated as hell. And it doesn't, I don't get mad at people that have information wrong or have come to conclusions I don't agree with, because that's normal. That's critical thinking. I'm certainly not right on many things. Certainly miss details, even if I am right. I miss something here, miss something there, whether it's in a private conversation with family members or whatever. Being wrong is not a reason to irritate me. Okay, people are wrong all the time. I've been wrong all the time. It's part of life. The part is about life is that you are wrong, you see where you got the whatever the scenario is wrong, and then you critically think through that and try to do a better job next time a similar scenario occurs. What pisses me off is blind arrogance. And when blind arrogance, where you just think things are given because that's the way you know they are, even though you have nothing to back up any of the context in which you're talking about. And it's like a superiority complex that so many people carry around, especially in the West. And if you just look at the facts, so if I take all these countries, I remove the names, so there's no emotional component or attachment to any of the names, and we just talk about what is going on factually, everyone would come to a much different conclusion than what is being perpetrated online. Now, I know certain YouTube channels are undoubtedly sponsored. We saw this early, first 12 months of the Ukraine war, is like all these Ukrainians have these really, really popular YouTube channels. They're government funded, and then all of a sudden they would just disappear. The most popular ones, like 5 of them, just vanish from the face of the earth. So those are out there, but the majority of them are just regular people like me having conversations, yet they've lived in this westernized bubble of perceived superiority that they can't think outside the box, or actually not even outside the box. They can't look at the facts and connect dots and say, well, my indoctrination, being a Westerner, tells me that this is the most likely outcome, but everything out there that's evidence-based is telling me that this might not be so. So maybe I should analyze this a little bit. So that is more or less why I got super irritated in the rant I didn't post yesterday. And we'll carry on. So let's jump from that to the F-35s. F-35s were picked up by Russian radar going over the Persian Gulf, and that was 2 nights ago. So my best guess is that those F-35s were probing, just trying to get an idea of missile defense systems. Obviously, there's scanning technology and things like that on the F-35s, so they could pick up defensive positions from Iran. Also, they could say, well, is Russian radar actively covering the Persian Gulf? That's in and of itself could be useful information for them if they weren't already aware of that. So my guess is that was a probe, because they got picked up and then nothing happened. No one heard about them. They disappeared into the night. One thing people need to understand is the F-35 is our 5th generation stealth fighter. So it is technically our most advanced fighter craft. Sorry, my cat is biting my foot. Stop, buddy. So it is our most advanced fighter jet. The F-35, however, is much akin to a Mercedes-Benz, like a top-of-the-line Mercedes-Benz. It has 1 hour of flight time for every 100 hours in the shop doing maintenance and repairs. it is, you know, the Mercedes-Benz has all the bells and whistles. On paper, you're like, holy crap, this is the most amazing vehicle I've ever been in, and then it's in the shop most of the time. And that's why people lease Mercedes-Benz more often than they buy them, because you've got full coverage, right? As soon as the 3-year warranty is up or whatever they're offering now, the value drops off a cliff. That is the F-35 in a nutshell. Now, as soon as things started, there was the military buildup in Ukraine, which we're not covering, but just this is F-35 relevant. In 2014, when NATO started building up the army in Ukraine, you darn knew that Russia was not going to sit there and say, we don't have the ability to pick up their stealth fighter. So you cannot beat Russian capabilities when it comes to like a targeted response to technology. If they have a problem that can be solved through technology, they're going to do it faster than anybody on this planet. So yes, F-35s can be picked up by a multitude of Russian radar. They are not invisible. They're invisible to most countries, but not to Russia. And I don't know if Russia's given that technology to China. I'm not sure why they would, because they're economic allies right now, but in the future that might not be the case. So maybe they are just sharing it with Iran in like, we have advisors on the ground and we have our radar set up, or if their radar can be stationed in Russia and it has the ability to pick up over the Persian Gulf from there, or they have planes in the sky, you know, up there at way, way high altitudes, 50,000 feet or whatever, with their radar technology attached to it. So reconnaissance planes, which, you know, the United States obviously does all the time. So any of those could be the situation around F-35s. But like I said, F-35s on paper are amazing, but they have insane amount of issues and very, very expensive aircraft to run. I would have much rather we bolstered our F-22 program alongside the F-35 development and found a way to cut the costs on the F-35 so we could keep on the F-22. Because the Raptor is a badass plane. In my opinion, as far as a fighter jet, it's the best plane we ever built. It had the capacity to legitimately fulfill the roles that the F-16 and the F-15 so famously were loved by all the pilots for. And that was really the best solution, was the F-22. It's not a perfect, doesn't have the perceived stealth capabilities of the F-35. It does have some, but not where the F-35 is. And I don't know if the F-22 Raptor is nuclear capable. And you can launch nuclear capable warheads from an F-35, you know, small ones. But so those are just questions I don't know about. But as far as a fighter jet, and from what I've heard of, you know, whenever you see the videos of like ex-Top Gun people or Air Force pilots and stuff, is that the F-22 really was an incredible plane, and it was way cheaper than the F-35. So there's my rant on the F-35. So they probably just probing, or they realized that Russia could see them and they backed off. But I don't think they would have launched an attack unless it was a very specific target they were trying to hit with those 4 fighter jets. So the perceived attack or response from the Iranian missile attack is thought to be almost certainly coming today. And from the intel that I have, it is most likely to be a launch from a Jericho 2, which is their large ballistic missile. This is generally silo launched, could be launched from a train car or a large, you know, like military version of a semi-truck. Now, I don't think a rail car or a semi-truck is, I think they're going to be silo launched. Just because how quick you can do that without drawing attention and they're not exposed. So that would be my guess. Now, the Jericho 2 is a very, very, very large ballistic missile, and it can carry up to 1 megaton nuclear warhead. Now, this could have changed, because it's not like as soon as military as secretive as Israel comes up with something new, they like post it in the Military Times or something like that. No, that's not what they do. But this is just development of what it was originally intended to do, which is now information that's 30 years old. So, you know, we got to take everything with a grain of salt, but we do know, generally speaking, the Jericho 2 is a large ballistic missile that in the past has been said to carry up to a 1 megaton nuclear warhead or conventional explosives of similar capacity. So that is the thought right now. And it is said, total rumor, that if they launch this attack, now we don't know what it's going to be on, and Iran launches another attack back in response to this, likely in the thousands of missiles with much more targeted response, since that's what Iranian claims they're going to do, then Israel will go nuclear at that point. I will refrain from my Israeli rant starting now. Moving on to the next topic. The Russian ambassador left yesterday, left the United States. So he didn't just leave, took everything and everybody with him. Basically closed down the office. This wasn't like things are getting a little tense. We're going to have the Russian ambassador go back to Putin, go back to Moscow, have some conferences with the upper echelon there in government, and then come back to the United States, and we'll try to work this. No, they're like, our business is done here, is basically what the statement was that was released. And they took everything with them. They do not plan on returning anytime soon, and that's a problem. Last time this happened was in this fashion, as far as I know anyway, is that the Japanese ambassador left before the strike on Pearl Harbor. And so it is certainly not a positive that the other most advanced nuclear power on the planet just had their ambassador leave our country, pretty much severing diplomatic ties at this point. Now, could that be over the Israeli-Iran situation? Could it be over the Ukraine situation, which is escalating very quickly now that Ukraine is gone as far as its military capacity? Now it's NATO versus Russia over there. And so we don't know what this means, but we can surmise when people stop talking, bullets start flying, and that's not good for anybody involved here. And if Israel decides to move forward with attacks on Iran and they do it in an escalatory fashion, they will not be making friends with China. That's for sure. Because about 10% of Chinese oil comes from Iran on a daily basis. And then there's the major strait there that controls a large majority of oil outflows for the region as well. So it would devastate everything. This escalates, we'll be looking at $15 a gallon gasoline, at least under this administration, because we are the world's largest oil producer at this point. But because financially on the global trade markets, it makes more sense for me to send you oil and then you to send me oil back rather than just keeping our oil at home. And because they get a cut each way. So they send the same shit. Like, I'll take your corn, you can take my corn. So when these people talk about stuff like global warming and all, I mean, they're so full of their own nonsense. They're flying or taking freight, taking trains. They're taking giant cargo ships full of product in a redundant manner constantly. And that's just so that they can get their cut. It's completely unnecessary. So there's a little aside there. But my point being is that it will have a devastating economic impact. And I have a feeling that they know this and that's intentional, but that's a 30-minute video in and of itself. So that's what we're looking for tonight. We're looking for the Israeli response. And then tomorrow, you've got the FBI and everybody domestically talking about incoming terror attacks and things like that. Could be to mark the 1-year anniversary of Gaza. Now, generally speaking, and this is just a word of advice for any of you who end up running a country when you're older, if you're going to launch a war against a group of people that you label as terrorists, you probably should have your border locked down. Not that it matters, because it's too late now. I mean, we could go down there tomorrow and lock it up, and we still have 250,000 people who are on some other country's payroll, at least. And that's a very, very minimal estimate, and that's basically what intelligence people can more or less prove, not what the actual numbers are. So there isn't a city in our country that's not extremely exposed to could be any variety of sabotage or terrorist activity if we start getting ourselves involved. If you don't think we'll be targeted domestically, then again, you're living in this arrogance of isolation and invincibility that doesn't actually exist on the ground. So with that, I will let that ride, because we could go into wargaming this. Maybe we will wargame. Wargame video would be fun. Just for me anyway. Maybe not be fun for you. I'd like it. So let's call that a day, and I'm going to be watching the news, and if I hear anything, I'll pop back on here. and I'll just post something quick, 5-6 minutes, on what the updates were. With that, I'll let you guys go for now.